Well, looky here. You are listening to someone who is bold, authentic, diverse, unpredictable. Baby, I am unapologetically Ramon, and you have entered my zone, the QB zone, baby. Hello, somebody.
Rock Legion.
I want to welcome everyone back to another episode of the QB Zone. This is a very serious episode, one that I am grateful to have. So I'm very grateful to my guests that you guys will hear from. And I am excited for the vulnerability, the transparency, and hopes that they will bring awareness and it will be something that can touch people that they'll be able to relate to and learn from in regards to this subject matter. This subject matter is something that we have heard a lot about in the news, specifically most recently the Miss USA from a few years ago. And so our subject today is surviving suicide. And before we get into my guest, I just want to read a few important stats that stood out to me. The Florida Department of Health lists the top 5 counties with the most suicides in the state of Florida. Number 1 is Broward. The next one is Miami-Dade County. Hillsborough, which for those who don't know, that's the Tampa area. Pinellas County, probably said that wrong. That's the Clearwater St. Pete area. And we have Palm Beach. When it comes to rates, for every 100,000 people, there are 22 white people committing suicide, 8 Hispanic, 7 Asian Pacific Islanders, and 6 Black. When it comes to the age, and this was kind of interesting for me, for every 100,000 people, there's 28 people who are 85 plus, 25 people that are 54 to 64, and 23 people that are 45 to 54. Those are the top 3 age ranges in the state of Florida. And when it comes to gender, for every 100,000 people, you have 24 males and 7 females. Out of the state of Florida, out of the United States, the CDC lists the top 3 states. New Jersey is number 1, New York is number 2, and Massachusetts is number 3. Also, according to the CDC, suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the USA. Last year, 45,979 Americans died by suicide. That's just the ones that were reported. 1.20 million suicide attempts occurred last year. And on average, there are 130 suicides per day. CDC also states that the number 1 cause for suicides at 53% is by the use of firearms. Today, my first special guest is a very special young lady who is here to share her story and bring awareness, and that is Miss CJ Clark. CJ, how are you today?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
I'm glad to hear that. So, first off, I definitely want to thank you for doing this episode. I don't take it lightly or take it for granted, so I really do appreciate it. When it comes to suicide, tell us about your association with suicide. Were you related to someone who did it? Were you the person who attempted? What led you to that point?
So I number one, had a best friend that committed suicide my senior year in high school. So that's been almost 20 years now. 20 years. It'll be 21 years in August. And then I also attempted suicide. This is 2022, so this was in 2015, January of 2015. So it's it's very personal to me. It's not something that I think anyone should take lightly. Anyone who's contemplating, or anyone who knows someone who has, you know, made the suggestion, or anybody who jokes about it, it's not something that I take very lightly, because, I had to walk that out on both sides, as a survivor for myself, and a surviving, friend. Um, so, it is near and dear, it's personal to me. So anytime that I'm able to, share with anyone else, for the most part, I'm pretty open to that.
That's good. That's good. And at that time, did you notice signs that you were suicidal? Did it catch you? When did you realize something was wrong?
Um, I was really caught off guard, to be honest. For me, it wasn't like, I know some people they go through like a depressive kind of state, or they're dealing with anxiety. I knew that I was dealing with anxiety. I actually had gone to my healthcare provider and told him that I was having trouble sleeping. And I was kind of like, I was dealing with like insomnia. I was kind of having nightmares. I was super stressed out. I was really overextended. So I was just looking at that as though I'm trying to juggle a lot of things, and I thought maybe it might have been anxiety, but unfortunately, I think that in, our culture, in the Black community, a lot of the time we shoo it away. You got to pray it away. You talk to somebody about it. You smoke it away. You drink it away. Like, you do other things
Absolutely.
than dealing with, that anxiety, or what the real issue is. Mental health. It's way more. I don't want to say more important, but we talk about it more now, and I feel like we were, 5-10 years ago. So I didn't know, I really didn't know. For me, it was kind of like, I went to my doctor. I just told him, he was a nurse practitioner. I went to my healthcare provider and just told him, I'm having trouble sleeping. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of stressed out. I feel like really anxious. And I think at that time, which I didn't know until years later, I think he diagnosed me with, like, the anxiety disorder. Like, if I look at my medical records now,
Right.
it's there. But I didn't know that at the time. And he had given me a prescription for Paxil, which, he just said, I didn't really look into it. At this time, I was a certified medical assistant. I didn't really look that much into it, to see what it was. He was like, here, this will help you get some sleep. This will help your nerves. This will help. And I remember I took it 3 nights in a row, and I had nightmares every night that I took it.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I'm just gonna stop. I had a bottle of 30, a 1-month prescription. I just took the 3 pills, and I was like, I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know, this isn't working. And I didn't get rid of the pills or anything, but those pills were what I used for my suicide attempt. And I basically took them, and I was gonna sleep and never wake up. For me, it was kind of like an all of a sudden thing. It was just like, I tell people when I do share, I say I basically was trying to bend until I broke. That's all it was, like, the thought literally just came to me. I remember, I was, at this time, I just had my 3 daughters, I was married. So it was kind of like confusion with the kids, confusion in my marriage. I was, pulled doing like PTA meetings, and stretched for church and stretched for work. I was doing, like, 70 hours a week at work. Like, I really just bent until I couldn't anymore. And I just remember on this particular day, my kids were doing something. I sent them outside. I yelled at them about something. I had argued with my husband. I think I called somebody and they didn't answer. And I just remember I was walking, and I heard this voice just say, well, you don't have a reason to live anyways.
Mm.
And I was like, and and it's wild because it was a voice I didn't recognize.
Right.
But at this state in my, at this state, I just kind of was like, oh, well, I don't. And I just heard the voice say it, the voice said again, you don't have a reason to live anyways. I mean, your kids would be way better off without you. Like, you're not handling things well. And it was like I was a robot. Like, I still can remember it now because it was like I was watching it's like an out of body experience. I was watching myself from up here. And I remember I was walking down the street and I just like about faced and walked back home. And I saw my kids like playing at the park. I don't know where my husband was, but I just walked to the house and I just walked right to the pills. And I just started to take them. And normally I can't take a pill without
water.
Okay, back then, right. Before I couldn't take it. I just was.
Oh, wow.
I just was taking them. And I lost count. Like I said, it was, I think, 30 pills in the bottle. And I had already taken 3 from before. And I remember I just took them and I lost count at about 19. So I don't know if I continued to take them after that.
Right.
Or just what happened. But I just remember I started getting real sleepy. And I remember I laid down on the floor. Like, I had closed the door and closed the shades because I was on my way out. I didn't leave anybody a note. I didn't anything. I was just like, I'm just going to lay it on down. Right. And when I wake up, I'm going to see my Lord and Savior. Like, that's what I had decided.
That's what your mind was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I remember, I don't know how long I was out for. Like, I don't remember how long I was out. I don't know. I just remember I heard like this voice. And it was the first time it was the second time I had ever heard the voice of God. And God calls me by my real name, which is Cassandra.
Right.
So that's how I knew that it was him. And he said, Cassandra, you want to be with me, but you can't go this way. And I was like, I knew it was God because God calls me by my real name. And I was like, I remember I was laying down, I'm out of my body. And I'm like, whoa. Well, I need you to help me. And God was like, just ask me. And I was like, when I don't know what to do, I just start praying the Lord's Prayer. I didn't know what to say, but I remembered, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I got I got like maybe 3 verses in. And the next thing I knew, I woke up and my husband was like, he had picked me up off the ground, and he's not too much bigger than me, but he was shaking me. You know what I mean? Like, he was shaking me and he was yelling in my face and he was yelling my name. And then, the next couple of hours kind of blurred, but I just remember all throughout the day, I just kept throwing up. And the pills, they hadn't disintegrated. I feel like this was really the grace that God had on my life, because I'm throwing up the pills and they're coming up whole. But I knew that with the medical background that I had, like, I knew that I had to get help. Number one, I said, I really just tried to take myself out. Like, I have to get help, but I was too weak. You know what I mean? I was too sick. I had taken all of this medication.
Right.
So I think I ended up later on in the night, I tried to drink water and I threw it up. And I told my husband at that time, my husband's like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to go to the hospital? Like, what you gonna do? I said, well, call poison control. And, I wasn't able to really talk. I was whispering everything that I was saying. And I remember I was on the phone with poison control, and I remember hearing the man say, you need to go to the hospital now. Like, he asked me what I took and I told him, and he was like, hold on. He said, ma'am, you need to get to the hospital now. And when I went on the way to the hospital, I knew I wasn't going to tell them that it was an accident. I knew that I was far gone and that I really needed somebody to help me. And I knew that I knew what was coming. I knew they were going to Baker Act me. I knew it was going to be in my files forever. I knew that I was going to have to relive it, pretty much the rest of my life with anything. But I just decided then, like, if God can take the time to speak to me in that condition, I owe it to myself, to my kids, to the people who I am positively impacting, to really get help. So, when I got to the hospital, I was honest with them, and I told them, I remember the nurse that was there, he looked at me and he said, so you're saying you tried to harm yourself? And I said, I did. And he was like, do you understand that I said, I understand. I didn't even let him finish because I already knew.
Right.
Once they gave me the IVs, it's a lot still I don't really remember exactly, but I just remember my husband I think he went to go get me something to eat. He left the hospital and he was coming back. And I remember seeing a police officer and the workers from Circles of Care, and they were coming to transfer me to the facility. And that's my truth. I needed that help though. You know what I mean? And it was so strange. So, I got there, they strip search you, everything. Like, I remember, it was like I was afraid, but I knew I had to go through it. And I remember I was sitting in this same kind of room with like rubber chairs, so nobody can hurt themselves.
Right.
And it was like a guy and a girl, and they had been on some kind of drugs, and they was talking to me, but I was just thinking like, I do not want to talk to y'all. I do not know who y'all are. But I was so scared at the same time. Like, it was wild. And I remember after 7 hours of being in that room, they called my name, and I was like, all right, here it goes. But when they called my name, they took me to another room, and my friend Amanda, her mom was there, Miss Carolyn Ferrier.
Oh,
and yeah, she was in the room.
I
don't know who called her. I don't know how she found out, but I remember I saw her, and she was the room. It looked so long, and she was at the end of a table, and she stood up, and she wasn't nothing but 5 feet tall.
Right, she was a short lady.
But when she stood up, it was like she was 6 feet, and I went and I embraced her, and she's strong because I about fell out, but she held me up, and she just told me it's all right. So at my lowest, God was there, and he sent her, and I owe her so much. She has such a big, and I think when you go through something like that, you have to look at who comes to you, who seeks you out, who tries to help you,
absolutely,
who doesn't judge you. You know what I mean? And she never brought it up again. She came to see me. I was there for 3 days, and she came and saw me 3 times. And I'm just so grateful for her. I'm grateful for the experience, because honestly, when I hear anybody talk about how they're feeling, anxiety, depression, anger, jealousy, all of those things are real. Absolutely. And they can lead people to, I didn't realize how angry I was even until then. You know what I mean? I didn't realize how angry I was. It was like I was angry with my kids because they didn't listen. I was angry with my husband because he didn't understand. I was angry with the teachers. I'm angry with people who don't want to do stuff that's right. I'm just angry. And I was angry with myself for allowing, you know what I'm saying, for me to get that worked up. And I also got to the point where I realized I was trying to people please too. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't got no business working 60, 70 hours at somebody's job unless you're trying to buy a house, or you're
right. You got a goal. Yeah.
Right. Unless there's a specific goal, you shouldn't be working like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I tell people now, you know what I mean? At my last job that I just left from in April, I remember we were having a staff meeting, and I don't remember what everybody was arguing about. They was arguing about something. Like I said, it's easy for me to tell. Now it's easy for me to tell this story, and I don't necessarily share it with everyone.
Absolutely.
But something was said during that meeting, and they were, everybody was talking about how much they work and how somebody else don't work, and I'm always here, and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up sharing with them, like I said, listen, y'all, and it was white people present, But the terminology that I always say when it comes to work now is, I say, I will never slave on nobody's plantation again. I won't do that. I'm not going to work myself to death. And, you know, slavery was not, Black people did not choose to be slaves. I don't mean that.
Correct.
I just mean, we don't have to do that. You don't have to be like that. You don't have to just work, because you die today and your job is posted 2 days from now.
Absolutely.
You know?
They done found your replacement before you in the ground.
Exactly. Like, and ain't showing up to your funeral. So it's like,
right.
You know, I just got to the point where I started to understand, like, you know, this work, a job, like that's not everything. You got family out here. You got, you know, and it wasn't until I think my second or third day being in Circles of Care, you know, they had little safe activities that everybody could do and be monitored. And we were coloring. And I remember, like, I opened up a coloring book and all of a sudden I remembered that I had children. And then I just cried because I was like, well, that was selfish. Like, it literally just came to me just like that. Like, your daughters don't even know where you at. They don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean? And you just, and I know, don't get me wrong, I know that sometimes when you're in that place, you're not thinking about how it would affect other people.
Right.
But if there was a way, you know, if anybody hears this and they are suicidal, being on the other side of it now, I would tell them, think of your kids, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your godkids. Think about how they're gonna feel years later. You know, like I said, my best friend, you know, he hung himself almost 21 years ago now. And that still very much affects me. When his birthday comes, you know, in March, when that date comes, August the 14th, I'm 37 years old now. And this happened when I was 17, the beginning of my senior year of high school. That's what I remember. You know what I mean? So it's not really something that you don't really get over it. You just learn better, you know, coping skills.
Absolutely. And for your best friend, were there signs? Did you? I mean, and you were a kid, so I mean, of course,
yeah,
you probably didn't really realize anything. But was there any awareness that your friend was struggling? Did you notice anything was different?
So so his was kind of a situation where basically he had gone to jail. He had gotten in some trouble. And he was accused of something that he actually didn't do and had to go to jail. And while he got out, and while he was waiting, he got in trouble again. He got like a weed charge. And from what we all still, you know, from what we know, basically the attorney that he had called him and told him that because he was in violation because of something, that he was expected to now have to go to prison. And he had said to us before that, so he was a couple years older than me, 3 years older than me. But he dated one of my best friends. And he had told us before, and we didn't take him seriously. He said, you know, he'll rather die than go back to jail. And he got that call on, I think it was Monday. And then 2 days later, he was gone. You know, and it's wild because he called, you know, he called a few of us and like left a message. You know what I mean? Like he said, he was saying bye to all of us. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with him, it wasn't really any signs. It was just suddenly, other than him saying, you know, and I didn't really realize, like you said, you know, I was younger, but I didn't really realize how fearful of jail and being locked down that he actually was, to the point that he'd rather take himself out
than to be in jail.
Yeah. So, and it definitely makes me more, you know, I ain't never been in jail. I tell people, I say, listen, if jail is anything like Circles of Care, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm not built for that. Don't send me there. That's why I don't get in trouble, you know, because I say I ain't built for that, man. People that just go back to jail all the time. Nah, bro, not me.
Hello. I know that's right.
So, you know.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting listening to your story because, you know, this is the first time we've had a conversation like this. So and it's not like I knew your story prior to. And what's been speaking volumes to me is the similarities in our stories. And for me, I only recently started feeling comfortable to talk about mental health and things like that and my journey with mental health. This is actually probably only the third time. This is only the third time that I would have shared this. The first time I shared it was with my grandmother, and how she found out is part of the story. So I'll tell that. And then when I started doing therapy in 2016, my therapist knew. There are people close to me that know I had attempted, but I never went into detail or even told any aspect of the story. It was 2010, and it was a lot of things. So for me, it was a gradual process. For me, it was planned out. I moved back home to Brevard County in '07, and I started working at a call center, and then I eventually started working in child welfare with Devereaux. And I had finished my first degree at FIU, and things were decent. But I remember I started to have health issues in '08. Towards the end of '08, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 12, and I've always been on medication for it. I've had some really rough moments, but I've always been able to get on some kind of medication to help me be better. And I have been in remission for a decent amount of time up until this point. But for some reason, towards the end of '08, I flared up really, really bad. And I just remember it getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where none of the medications that I was prescribed was working. It's like I wasn't even taking anything. I wouldn't even feel better for a day. Medication was doing nothing. Even the medications that I would usually take and I would feel better in like a day or two or whatever, I wasn't feeling better at all. Like I said, literally no medication the doctor gave me, and they tried a lot of different ones, nothing was still taking effect. And this lasted for 3 years. 3 years of my disease being in remission, and I lost so much weight. And I remember also leading up to this, I was dealing with a lot of issues where, for so long, I sought validation in other people. I was a people pleaser. I thought that by me helping you, by you needing me, by me being a service to you, that this was my purpose or this validated me. And I always evolved my life around other people. I was always finding it difficult to say no. And whatever you needed of me, you got it. And I'm in an organization where, at the end of the day, everybody, I did join a Greek organization when I was at FIU. And, unfortunately, everybody don't get along. Everybody doesn't have your best interests at heart. And so, unfortunately, I did have a lot of experiences where I was just betrayed, just flat out betrayed and stabbed in the back. And these are people that you care about and would do anything for. And yeah, we were all young and dumb at the time. So I look at it differently, but at the same time, at that time, it affected me because once again, I got validation out of people. And so if I wasn't of service, if we fell out, if there was some kind of issue, I blamed myself and carried guilt, even if I clearly ain't got nothing I should have been blaming myself for. So when you join that with the fact that I now have health issues, that it's getting worse and worse and worse, and being born and raised in the church, it starts to affect you when it comes to your spiritual relationship with God. And so it's like, why has God forsaken me? Why doesn't God hear me? Why is he letting me get this bad? And I just wanted rest. I just wanted it all to stop. So one of my medications that the doctor gave me, it was this long word. I can't even tell you how to pronounce the damn word, but I just know it began with a D. And it's supposed to help with diarrhea. That's one of the symptoms when your Crohn squares up. Realized one.
Oh, you had an autoimmune. You had an autoimmune disease.
Yes.
Those are the worst. Those are.
God. Yeah. So I can't remember how many I was supposed to take, but I remember taking a little bit more, thinking, oh, if I take a little bit more, maybe it'll be more effective. And then I realized, wait a minute, this makes me sleepy. This makes me feel some type of way.
Lord.
And that was exactly what I needed, you know. So I planned it out. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. And mind you, I was still working at Devereaux. I was still a case manager. I was still going to see my accountants. I was still going to the court hearings. I was still working. So no one on the outside knew what was going on with Ramon. I say it's a blessing and a curse. I've always been able to hide what I feel and what I'm really going through. I mean, I don't do it anymore because it's just come too stressful to do that. And plus, I've done a lot of work on myself. But at that time, I was really, really good about hiding how I felt. And so I went to my computer and I didn't write a note, but I wrote out my funeral program. I wrote what I wanted to happen at my funeral, who I wanted to do what, and all that kind of stuff. And then I went over to my grandmother's house, which she lived. I live off Walker Street over there in I can't think what they call that neighborhood now, but over there by Green Street Community Center. I lived over in that.
Yeah. At Booker Heights. No, is that Booker Heights?
Booker Heights, yes.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother, she lived over in, they call it Coalside. She lived over there. I printed it out. I went to her and gave it to her in an envelope, and I said, don't open it unless something happens to me. Of course, being who she is, she gonna open it as soon as I left the damn house. Opened it? Yeah. But she didn't call me and say nothing, but she did open it and read it. And so I remember 2 days later, I had taken the pills and I took a lot. I remember I can't remember the quantity, but I remember it was full and the bottle was halfway when I took it. And I was sitting on my couch, my black leather couch, I never forget it. I lived alone at the time. And I just remember sitting there watching one of my favorite movies, which is Love and Basketball. Because if I went out, I want to go out, happy. Yeah. And I can't necessarily say that I specifically wanted to kill myself, but I want to sleep and never wake up.
Right.
And I got sleepy. And I said, okay, it's going to kick in eventually. So I remember turning the TV off and laying down on the couch. In the middle of the night, I remember waking up mad as hell because I'm like, shit, I'm still here. Because I remember waking up, having to throw up, and it was like in the middle of the night. So I slept for a very long time, but I'm mad I'm still here. I'm mad that I'm still in pain. I'm mad that I'm still dealing with this illness and what was going on mentally. So I said, okay, I continued on my week. Didn't say nothing to nobody. I went to work the next day like it was no problem. And so 2 days later, I said I was going to try again. This time I said I was going to mix it with alcohol, hoping that the effect would be stronger because clearly we know you're supposed to take this stuff with alcohol. I generally love working in child welfare. And so I remember I had some things to do on some of my cases this particular day. And I said I was going to go to work. I was going to tidy up some things on my cases. I was going to take the pills at a certain time because I kind of calculated that if I take it by this time, it usually takes this amount of time for it to kick in. So if I take it at this time and I make it home by that time, I'll be home when it kicks in. I won't be out or driving my car or whatever. I got up, got dressed. I stopped at my grandmother's house, which I tended to do on my way to work or on my way from work. I would stop at my house just to say hi because I worked off of Palm Bay Road. So I'm passing that area, to go and come back. She get to the oven, stop by the house. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. I kept it very short. I wasn't trying to have no conversation. I wanted to get to work, do what I got to do, and then go do what I plan to do. And I go to work. I just remember it being such a quiet day. It wasn't a lot of people in the office. I felt very productive. Like I really could get a lot done. And I remember 11 o'clock was that time that I had said, okay, for me to take the medication. And I remember going to the bathroom at my office, taking the medication. I took the rest of the bottle. And I had some vodka that I put in a water bottle, like a Zephyr Hills type bottle. And so I've had that in my bag. And so I remember going in the bathroom, taking the rest of the pills with the alcohol. And I said, okay, it's about 30 more minutes, I need to leave and head home. And so I tidied up, did whatever, shut my computer down, and I left my computer there because I expected it to work. I was hoping it was going to work. And I didn't want this work computer and stuff to be at my home. And then my family got to figure out who to give it to, what to do with it. Let me leave these people's stuff here. And I used to always take my computer home because I was one of those people that would take work home and do work while I'm watching TV and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So I left all that stuff there. I left my bag. I left everything there that was work related. Get in the car and I feel it kicking in. And then I said, okay, let me hurry and get my ass home because I don't want to pass out while I'm driving on the road. It was kicking in faster than I thought. And I went home, I made it home, walked into my house. And this is when I was like, God, you make me sick. Because I'm thinking I'm gonna go in this house, lay down. I walked in this house and threw up. I threw up everything in my living room. I literally was only able to walk into my house and shut the door. Everything came out of it. And I just remember being so angry at God, so angry at life. And I just didn't understand why I couldn't get a break. I just didn't understand why I couldn't get any peace, why my illness is like this, why don't I have people in my life who, you know, love me or have my best interests at heart, why I can't receive the good that I'm getting back. Like I just didn't want to be part of life anymore. And it was just, I just remember a lot of thinking the next day. I didn't even clean the throw up right away. It was very dark in my house. I was laying out on the couch, just mad and angry. I did call out of work the next day. I remember going to my grandmother's house and telling her what happened. And she kept it between us. So nobody, my grandfather didn't know. Nobody else in my family know. Whoever listens to this will find out. But that was one of my secrets that my grandma took to the grave with her. And I think when she died in 2019, it made me think about it a lot more just because of that and every other situation I have been through in my life. She had really always been there, been by my side. And so I'm just like, dang, what if something happens to me now? Who's going to have my back? Who's going to be there for Ramon? But I can say that I did learn a lot about myself. I remember saying to God, well, clearly you in control and you ain't gonna let me have my way. So I told myself from then I wasn't gonna try no more. Because
you tried
twice in a week. I tried twice in a week and God just couldn't let me be. So I said, I'm not about to be wasting my time. I'm not wasting my time if you know, so. And I've been through a lot of dark moments since then. You're talking 11 years ago. I have been through some dark time that was way worse than that. But I still never got back to that place where I feel like I wanted to become suicidal again. There were definitely some damn sure times where I was close. And I was like, I'm probably one bad day, bad moment away from trying again. But I haven't. With you, after, you got out of circles and you started to, put one foot in front of the others and move on, did you do therapy? What helped you continue to be better and heal and evolve?
So when I got out of, so part of the agreement, I guess, for my release, my discharge from Circles of Care, they had the psychiatrists come and see me and, a couple of different other counsel, social workers, things like that. And all of them were kind of like, you don't seem like you're supposed to be here. You don't. And, I literally told them what happened. And, something else that I forgot to mention, but I thought of it when you were talking about your disease. So I have, it's called hidradenitis suppurativa, which is basically you get abscesses. It's also an autoimmune disorder. So though it's not the same thing, it's not, what you have had to deal with. I had to deal with, I would get abscesses under my arms repeatedly, to the point where my husband actually had to get, he was approved for FMLA because there would be days where I couldn't move. I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't.
Wow.
And working, as a medical assistant,
Right.
you have to be able to move around and to do things. And,
Absolutely.
I'd have to call out of work. I would, get fevers. And what I realized afterwards was, when it comes to like inflammation like that in your body and autoimmune disorders, it weakens your immune system, but stress makes those things worse. And I was dealing with so much stress. And I also just remember too, at this time, so about maybe 3 months, November. Yeah. So in the month of October, this was January, this happened. October, the year before, my daughter had an asthma attack at school, which her asthma hadn't flared for years, but she didn't have any inhalers. She didn't have anything because she didn't have any problems since she was like 3 or 4 years old. So at this time she was maybe, I think, 13. And she had an asthma attack at school, and we thought we were going to lose her. It was that severe. And then 3 weeks after that, my husband was going up the stairs at our apartment complex, and he fell through the stairs. And when he fell through those stairs, it scratched the front of his leg, and the scratch looked it didn't look like anything major, but I watched it for like 2 or 3 days, and it just got worse and worse. He ended up getting cellulitis. Now, when he went to the emergency room, they didn't even clean it. They didn't do anything. They x-rayed it. They was like, it's not broken. They sent him on his way.
Oh, wow.
So what I was doing was I was taking pictures of it and sending it to the doctor that I work for. And she told me, I said, I really want him to go to urgent care because I see the streaking. It looks worse. And by the time we got him to urgent care, they sent us straight to the hospital. And they said, if you would have been out another 2 hours, he could have lost his leg. And then that caused him to have to. So he had already kind of been out of work for me, with my condition. Now he's having to be out of work because he's dealing with these IV antibiotics and oral antibiotics and everything. So we ended up getting behind on our rent for the month of December. So, all it takes is you don't pay one time and they file an eviction.
Absolutely.
So January, we got that eviction notice. 3 weeks later. So I was dealing with all of that at the same time. So fast forward, when I was getting ready to get discharged from Circles of Care, they said, I remember they asked me, they said, we want to let you go home. We don't really feel like you need to be here. What's your plan? Because we know you're kind of face this eviction and, your job and everything. And I was like, I'm going to quit my job. And they were like, so you're going to quit your job? And I was like, listen, I said, my job is about 85% of my stress. I know that that's where a lot of it is coming from. And the whole time that I was in Circles of Care, that 3 days, it seemed like a long 3 days, but the whole time I was there, I just kept hearing God telling me to have faith, to have faith, to have faith. And for the first 2 days I was there 3.5 days. For the first 2 days I was there, I ain't washed my face. I didn't do that. I was just crying. I was just upset. What am I doing here? I don't know these people. It's men and women on the same unit. There's no doors that lock. So at any time a man can just walk into a room, it was terrifying for somebody who had never been in that situation. I don't know these people. They screaming at each other. They fighting and choking each other. Like it was just a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But that third day, it was just like something just clicked in me. And I remember my husband had dropped some books off. He couldn't find my Bible, but I had another Bible. I had another book that had like a devotional that had like scriptures in it. And I kept opening up the book and turning to the devotional that was titled, it just said faith on it. And I can't remember the passage that it was, but with Reverend Ferrier coming to see me and me keep going to this, this same thing, I just kept leaning on, okay, God, you want me to trust you. So when I got out, I remember my god brother and his wife, they came to see me, and they took me to go eat, and they were very supportive, and they was just like, whatever you need, do you want us to take the kids? And mind you, they had at the time 4. I don't think they had the twins yet, so they had either 4 or 6 kids of their own.
Wow.
But they wanted to get my girls and go do whatever just to be supportive, non-judgmental, nothing. No, you're crazy, why you acting like this, none of that. And I remember, and it's nothing against my father whatsoever, but I remember my dad came over, and I talked to my mom while I was in circles of care. I didn't talk to my dad. I remember my dad coming over, and I remember him saying like, all right, Sweet Pea. So my family calls me, some of them call me Sweet Pea. And I remember him coming over and saying, all right, Sweet Pea, you gotta get back on the horse. You gotta get back to work. You gotta whatever. And I was like, and I was sitting, at this time we moving out. I had to go to court. I got out of the circles of care. I had court like the next week. And I was just like, Dad, I'm not going back to that job. And he's like, well, you can start it. Go back to your old job. The doctor will take you back. And I was like, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, God is telling me that I'm supposed to rest. And I don't know how I'm supposed to rest. But I know that the way that I tried to do it, that's not the right way. And I took that leave of absence. And, your job gives you, what is that, 90 days? Like when it's FMLA, you take a leave of absence or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was January. I took the leave of absence and I gave my notice in April. And I just, I went up to the office and I said, I'm not, I'm going to go ahead and resign. And I didn't work from April of 2015 until I went back to work October 2016. And all I did during that time, I went to a counselor that that I think I had Medicaid at the time when I left my job. So I didn't have my insurance anymore. Right. I got Medicaid. And, I went to a counselor like twice. And, at this time also, I was going through a custody battle with my second daughter. So it was like a lot of things.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the counselor was kind of, I don't know what she was talking about, but I was just like, yeah, I don't need to see this lady. I don't know. And I'm not at all saying that counselors, mental health, that they're not good. You just got to find the right one for you. Absolutely. She wasn't the right one for me. Right. But what I did do was, I remember after I turned in my resignation letter, I went to my church. And I remember I went to Elder Ford. One of the elders was there. And Nick was there, which is my bishop's brother. And I said, I remember I told Nick, I said, Nick, I got to work. I need something to do. Like I knew, because I could feel those thoughts coming back. Like, well, what are you going to do now? You done quit your job. Now you don't have any money. Like I could hear them coming back. And I said, I need somebody I got to get busy. And I didn't want to get busy, like doing everything. I wanted to do something that was productive, And he said, come up here and, you can come clean the church. And I remember I was thinking, y'all ain't got no cleaning company. Like, that's what I was just thinking to myself. Like, no, the church members serve in the church. It sounds funny now, but that's what I did for all of that time. And why? And it's crazy because I went up there to go clean. I would go at 8:00 on Mondays. And by the time I finished, and I would clean, we cleaned the bathrooms, we vacuumed, we cleaned all the chairs in the sanctuary, all the chairs in the fellowship hall. Like I went one by one and did all of those. And by the time I was done, usually like 10:00, there was a Bible study group that met, a women's Bible study. I didn't even know. And that Bible study group was meeting at 10:00 on Monday. So by the time I'm done, I'm seeing these ladies going to the back and I'm like, well, what they doing? And, older ladies. I'm like, well, what they got going on? So I just decided one day I was going to sit back there with them. And that's all she wrote. Like I learned so much from those women. The lady who led the Bible study, Officer Dolores Price, she used to be officer at Stone. Yeah. Yeah. So she taught, and she is. Yeah, she was leading the Bible study group, and I learned so much, just from her. I call them my pillars and my mentors. I got up under them, and I just learned so much with them. And Miss Dolores is actually my fourth daughter's godmother because while I was attending Bible study, I got pregnant with Tasia.
Oh.
And then there was two other ladies too, Miss Ray and Miss Barbette, and they are two of my other daughter's godmothers. But these are the women who I got up under, who they poured into me, they mentored me. I didn't really realize what a bad attitude that I also had with me being angry.
Oh yeah.
Like I had to check me, you know what I mean? But God, he gave me that grace for me to be able to get checked in a safe environment. So I didn't go necessarily to like a licensed mental health counselor, but those women, they were my licensed spiritual counselors.
Absolutely.
They helped me mentally. But I do have a friend, her name is Simone Love Mendez, and she's a licensed mental health counselor. And I did do some talking like with her. She's younger than me, but that girl she's brilliant.
Right.
And I just talked to her about, different things. And like I said before, I feel like in our community, a lot of the time we don't say, go see a counselor, don't go get therapy. You should. Like anybody should, definitely. Sometimes you need a person who's, do you say unbiased, non-biased, not somebody who's going to agree with everything that you say.
Mm-hmm.
And it can show you a different way. Like sometimes we want real, even outside of spiritual, don't get me wrong, God is everything. But sometimes sometimes you're looking for practical things to do. Like, don't tell me to pray it away. Tell me what I can do right now. Tell me that it's okay for me to go in my garden and go till the soil, or it's okay for me to go walk on the beach. Like, you're looking for those other things. And I definitely think after, a suicide attempt, you get yourself right physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and you setting yourself up to be successful for sure.
What's one thing that you wish? A lot of times we don't want to share and disclose for fear of judgment, because like you said earlier, a lot of times in our community, or you crazy, or they're very nonchalant with it, or just pray it away, yada yada yada. What is something that you wish people would realize when it comes to interact or dealing with someone who is suicidal?
That how they're feeling is valid. That it's there can be times where people do it or make the threats and it's for attention,
right,
or they're just looking for a reaction. But if you sit with that person, I believe you'll be able to kind of discern, like, let me pay attention to what they got going on. Let me spend a little bit more time listening to what they're saying. Like you said, there was so many similarities between our own stories, but something that was blowing me was how you had it planned out.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I left my laptop at my job. I didn't want my family to have to do this and to have to do that. Like you thought that through. That tells me like you were intentional about it. Like you intended to, I'm going to go to sleep and I'm not going to wake up. And I know what it means to not wake up. So a lot of the time they'll say, I've heard it said like, does that person have a plan? Sometimes it's like me, and it's like how it was with Chris, where it seems like it's all of the sudden. But sometimes I think we have to, like they say, check on your strong friends, check on the people who's always looking out for everybody else. When they start getting quiet, when they start not saying anything, you got to pay attention, to those things. It's not just life is life, and like, no, really pay attention and see if they got something going on. So I would definitely say that, like how people feel are actually, your feelings are real, your feelings are valid.
Absolutely, absolutely. CJ, listen, I really appreciate you sharing this story. It motivated me to want to share mine, so I thank you for your vulnerability. I've always loved a lot of your posts when I see you post on Facebook. So, I've always wanted that. I want to get to know this young lady a little more. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And
I'm glad I got to, I just, you just a Black king. You know what I mean? Like I'm so inspired. Like even I feel like a fan, because like I write poetry. I've never written a book, and I know like you are published. You are like you are where I desire to be at. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just look sometimes and be like, wow, he just doing what he want to do. Like, it's just
What's
amazing to
interesting?
see.
That has helped me on my journey because a lot of times I don't really realize people are looking at me or they feel this way about the things that I do. I remember one time in therapy, my therapist asked me to list all the compliments people give me and list the things
Mm,
that I know myself that I've accomplished. And I remember writing them down. And she said, okay, read them out loud. I read them out loud. And she said, now how do you feel? I said, I feel nothing because
mm,
I struggle with celebrating myself. I struggle with, I can be down on myself. I can be mad at myself in a minute, but when it comes to praising myself or when it comes to, patting myself on the back, I struggle. One thing I'm learning is give myself grace,
right.
and forgive myself for the things that I've done intentionally or not intentionally to myself. And so the more that I have these types of interactions with people where y'all feed positivity into me, it has truly helped me these last few years to be where I'm at today. So yeah, that means a lot.
Right. Definitely.
Absolutely. So I would definitely have you back on my podcast on this. We'll do a subject not so serious next time. But no, seriously though, I really thank everything, and I hope you have a good day.
Hope you do too, bro. You take it
Thank you.
easy.
Take care, CJ.
All right. Bye.
So on this next segment, I have another special guest. I'm very excited to speak with her. I first met this young lady years ago when my foundation used to do a lot of work at this organization back home called Club Esteem. She stood out like a sore thumb. The reason why she stood out because I always felt like she was so mature and so grown that I will forget what her age actually was. I'm very proud of where she's at. She's gone on to get her master's degree. She's working in social work, and she's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So we are that D9 brother and sister together. So I'm so excited to have her. And my next guest is Mika Brown. What's going on, lady?
Hey.
So today, as you know, we're talking about suicide. And one of the things that I talked about in the previous segment with my guest was that we both had attempted. Mine was 11 years ago. It was by way of pills and alcohol. And then now we have you to shed some light on your association with suicide. And I know you advised me that you had someone closely that attempted suicide, and then you as well as yourself. So share what you want to share, what you feel like sharing, and start with yourself.
Mhm.
Was it a gradual thing? Was it something that just hit you that day? For me, it was planned out. It was gradual issues that piled up, and mine was planned out. My previous guest, hers wasn't so much planned out. It was just stressors and a lot of things piling up, and then one day it was just like, why do I want to live anymore? And she kind of went about it, kind of a last minute, I guess, or day of. What was yours like leading up to that day?
Mine was definitely a gradual build up. I was in a stressful relationship. I didn't love myself. And, you're just always a strong friend, and they look to you for basically to be the rock. You're not looked at as the person who have issues. You're not looked at as the person that like actually needs help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm that person in every one of my friend groups' life. And sometimes it's hard to listen to the strong friend because they always assume like, oh, you gonna bounce back, you got this, you're gonna do better, da da da. But inside you're internally just dying, like withering
Absolutely.
away.
Yeah.
And I literally was withering. Like it was like I was just a vessel walking around. I felt like there was no soul in me, there was no purpose. I couldn't understand like I care so much about people and I want to know if they're genuinely okay. Like, why doesn't anybody want to know if I'm genuinely okay? So it felt like I didn't matter. I had a whole plan. I did the pill thing with the alcohol. I also text everyone in my phone. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I had wrote a poem in my phone around that time. But I did let everyone know that I love them. And I'm not gonna say unfortunately, but to my surprise, when I got up the next morning, I was here. I was just like, dang, So that didn't work. So
Right.
it had to been a reason. And finally, after weeks of like holding it in, I forgot my line sister actually, which I call her my sister. We were sitting and we were talking, and we were talking about suicide. We were talking about death, and uh, they were asking, like, have you ever attempted? And I explained to them, how many months ago it happened. And then, of course, they brought my profile into it. And my profile was like, is that why you were texting me? I love you. Don't ever do that again. And, they were upset. But I feel like people just, it's hard to explain. Like, they can't grasp it. And then at the same time, I had like an internal battle because I am raised in a Christian household. So that's also something that I battle with because, again, it was planned out for months at a time. If I was to do it, this is how I would do it. I would text these people. I would say this. I would do that. And I battle with my soul going to hell if I was going to go to heaven. And that also played into my like demise, really, because
Right.
I didn't want to go to hell.
Right.
I didn't want to have to, I feel like I was such a good person here on earth or whatever, that the one decision I feel like that I needed to make for myself that was going to send me to hell. So I battled with that as well. And it was a lot.
That particular day, was it like a normal day for you? Did you, because I know like for me, I went to work. I went to
Yeah.
work for a few hours. I said, I got a few things on my caseload I want to get out the way. Because I genuinely love working in social work. I said, so let me do these last few things. And then I'm going to, take the pills and go that route. Did you go to work? Was it a regular day for you?
It was a regular day. A regular day. I was still bouncy. I was still happy. I was still processing. I was still, good morning, hello, hey, still bubbly, still full of life. But literally inside, it was just nothing there. Like I told the people at work, I love you guys. I gave them hugs. I've created like a document to make the work process easier for them.
Oh,
Like
wow.
if I was to be gone, this paper to help is to help with this, and literally turn it into my boss. Yeah, it was a normal work day, but I was making provisions in
Absolutely.
everything.
Absolutely. That's so interesting you had left things for them at work so that the work could be easier. I know for me, I used to take my work equipment home, the computer, all that kind of stuff. So I just remember leaving it at my desk. And then I remember I didn't text anybody. I felt like, I always give myself to others and, I always care and go over for others, but who does it for Ramon? Nobody. You could be in a room full of people and still feel alone. So I had those kind of issues. And I remember, like I said in the previous segment, I typed up my funeral program, the order of how I want everything to go, who I want to do what. And I can definitely relate growing up in a Christian household, and then you grow up having your own life experiences that may conflict with how you were raised. So morally inside of you, you kind of like have a warfare, spiritual warfare inside, because you have what you're taught, but then life experiences, ain't meshing well with that. Did you get counseling after that? Did you seek help? What did you do to kind of move forward and heal?
Truthfully, after the attempt and talking to my line sisters and profiles and everything like that, I figured like I had everything under control. Like I could do this. Like literally, you sit and you talk to people all day. You could do this. Like you don't need to go see anybody. You don't need to talk to anyone. Which is even like more like, girl, you in the profession to do this, and so I didn't really seek counseling to begin with in the beginning. After my first attempt, I did not. I didn't really seek counseling until after my sister committed the act, and then I really just couldn't process or deal. Like that's when I really, and I feel like it messed me up even more because she was somebody who supported me the most when I did my attempt and was like, you can't do that. This earth needs you, and that messed me up. So I really did go to counseling after that. And part of me also didn't do the counseling because I still was in those messed up situations. Like I said, I was in a poor relationship. I really didn't love myself. I didn't see the value in who I was, which is why I attempted it twice. But seriously, it wasn't until after my sister passed away that I was like, yeah, girl, you got to.
And for your two, what was the distance in time between the two? For me, my two were in the same week. How much time was in between your two?
A month.
Okay.
A month. It was a month. Well, in between that time frame, I ended up getting a foster child.
Okay.
Which who I call my goddaughter now. So that gave me just a little bit more of a push, a reason, in a sense. But then that was also added to everything else that I had going on, and I was just like, okay, it's time to go, and I tried again.
Right. And it was the pills and alcohol thing again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With your sister, was there signs leading up that there was anything wrong with her? Did you guys notice anything? What was that day like when you found out?
So I found out the day after Thanksgiving, and it's funny because 3 days prior to her committing the act, we celebrated my birthday, and she was there. And I didn't really pay attention then, but looking back, I'm like, she was withdrawn. She did stay to herself. 2 days after, we usually text and, have conversation. And she wasn't really into the conversation. So, I was kind of like, And then Thanksgiving Day, we're texting, having conversation, but she's not responding. Usually Thanksgiving morning, she's like sending us pictures of her cakes and everything that she's done. And I'm like, this is strange. Like, this is usually not her. But then I called and it went straight to voicemail. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe she's taking a nap because she napped a lot. Okay. But now going through my master's program and knowing clinically, people who suffer from depression can't really care for themselves or anything around them. Like, her room was always chaotic. She had a dog, which I have her dog now. She loved him. It's just she couldn't really care for him. Like, hold on, I'm sorry. She changed jobs a lot. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot of different things. Now that I look back, like, she was severely depressed. But when we had a conversation one time before, when I had committed the second time the attempt, she was saying to me, well, should I ever do this? This is what I would do. And for me, I'm like, well, people only have a plan if they really are depressed. So we both had agreed, like, okay, we'll look into counseling. She actually went. I didn't.
Okay.
And she actually was going to counseling and she was talking to somebody, but then the pandemic had hit and something happened where she couldn't go face to face anymore. And she wasn't really fond of the telehealth thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking she's still at least talking to somebody or something. But there were signs. Did we miss them? I think so, yes. But they were there.
With you working, doing clinical therapy, what are some things that you would advise people to look out for as far as any kind of depression or mental health signs, so they can know that their loved one or so-and-so is struggling? Because a lot of times we do miss the signs.
I would say change in behavior. So human beings are creatures of habit. Whether you want to admit it or not, you do certain things a certain way every day. You have the same routine every day. If you notice little things changing, like a good indicator that for me, creating a process to make it easier at my job. If you're good at your job, why are you creating a process for if you know the process?
Right.
Then if it's like my sister, she at one point she was organized enough. She still did baked goods and stuff like that. When she stopped doing baked goods, that should have been something like, you love doing that. Why did you stop? And do we need to sit down and clean up this room together?
Right.
I bring the wine we sit down and fold some
Hello.
clothes,
Right,
you
right.
know, or we don't even have to talk. I'll fold the clothes, you can sit over there with the wine, like it's just little subtle things. And you, even with yourself, I'm pretty sure you could have noticed like something in your routine changed, something in your normal day to day wasn't the same.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I definitely think like paying attention to stuff like that, like little things changing, it increasing anxiety or irritability, getting like easily irritated. If you're a bubbly person, like, and you're always smiling, and all of a sudden you're just snappy, 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 it's not just, oh, she's having a day. Well, I noticed that you've been kind of off today. Everything okay? It just takes 2 seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know for me, the good thing about it is that, well, I ain't gonna say the good thing about it, but after the second time, the only person that knew was my grandmother because I came to her and told her. 'Cause I lived alone, and I remember, we had a conversation about it. She's a very spiritual woman, so of course she prayed and read about all that kind of stuff. But she was more concerned with me and that I was okay, not so much a lecture or how some of the Christian people can get. Um, Definitely was withdrawn. Definitely was very much snappy. I'm typically, a happy person, want to have fun, do foolishness to make people laugh. Like that's me. But I definitely, when I start to get a little snappy, and everything is pissing me off, that's when I'm like, I might want to take a break because I'm about to get to a point. And those are some of the warning signs that I've noticed these past few years because, that was 2010, and I have been through a lot of rough things that had me in a more darker place than I was in then.
Mhm.
But I never got to the point where I was suicidal. And so I think that's because 2016 I did start going to therapy. I feel like therapy and prayer has really helped me. And so I was able to recognize certain signs. So when my grandmother died in 2019, and that just turned my life upside down. And then a year after, I lost a brother due to gun violence. And then I've consistently lost people and things that I've loved. I think it's the fact that I recognize the signs and I will reach out if I feel like it's getting to be a little bit too much. Some people are not that strong. Some people don't have that level of self-awareness. I can say for me that after that second failed attempt, I was like, well, clearly God is going to get in my way. He gonna keep getting in my way.
Every time.
So I don't feel like wasting my time and energy, wasting my money on this good liquor, thinking it's gonna help, and God is gonna get in my way anyways. So I promised myself I wouldn't try again, but there was many times, especially in 2019 and 2020, where I felt like I'm one bad day, one bad moment away
Wait.
from trying again because I felt like I'm at the edge of the cliff and my feet are dangling. Going through suicide as related to a loved one or attached to a loved one that unfortunately successfully attempted, and then you yourself having an attempt, what are some things you've learned about yourself?
So I guess I should say this: when my sister was successful, the pain that I still feel to this day is sometimes unbearable. And to think, and I feel like this may be just a little bit selfish, to think that I was willing to put people in my life who aren't as strong as I am through that same thing. I feel like I don't know, it's like unbearable to live with, like to think to myself, like, you really was gonna do that? And I went to therapy after my sister because I was so angry because I couldn't believe that she would leave me on this earth by myself, really. Like,
No, I get it.
So what I learned about myself was it's hard, right? And emotions are one hell of a thing. They are very selfish. So whether you feel them or you don't feel them, they coming up. Whether
Absolutely.
it's tomorrow, 3 months from now,
Hello.
5 months from now, they're coming. So I've learned within myself, like, you sometimes just gotta sit in that emotion. You gotta sit in that emotion, and creating boundaries is okay. I was boundaryless. Anybody could do anything to me, say what they want to me, and I'm like, yes, yes, okay, all right. You want to slap this cheek? All right, here's the other one. Like,
No,
you
I
know,
get it.
like,
I get it.
so I had to like learn for myself, like, set those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no, and it's okay if somebody get mad for you to say no.
Hello. Yeah.
Like, that's fine. What else is something that I learned? It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Right.
It really is not. It is not worth it. I feel like the pain that we felt in that moment was a temporary pain.
Mm-hmm.
And because for me, it was a buildup of things. Because I didn't look those things in the face and say, you try me. No, can't do it. You got to get up out of my life. Because I didn't have the self-love and self-worth within myself to be like, you worth a little bit more than this, honey. You putting up a little bit too much.
Hello.
I let those temporary feelings and emotions build up to a point where you felt like you weren't valued on this earth. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I definitely relate to you on that because like I said, I used to seek validation out of people. So you needing me, you wanted me to do stuff for you. I was always there, never told you no, would put it before myself and my needs, what I wanted. And yeah, I definitely had to set boundaries, but I didn't know how. Until I improved my self-love, until I realized that I was okay, I didn't have the courage to set the boundaries. I didn't know how to set no damn boundaries with people because I felt like if you was bad at me or we fell out or whatever, I carry guilt. Anybody need to carry the guilt. And it was like, if I don't have all these people in my life, if I don't have all these people wanting something from me, then who the hell am I? So yeah, I definitely. Yeah.
When you said I sought my validation from others, walking testimony, sought my validation from everybody. So much so, I was so terrified that if I didn't do what you wanted me to do, you would no longer like me. No longer want to be around me. And like, your validation don't come from nobody but yourself and God.
Hello.
So why was that such a big thing for you?
Yeah. And when you set those boundaries, the people that are no longer in your life, them the ones that you don't need in your life. Them the ones who need to be gone. Whether that's fraternity brothers or sorority sisters, whether that's family, friends, whatever. You really learn who you needed in your life. Sometimes we hold on to certain friendships that was only supposed to be a season. Everybody come into our life to be our best friend forever. Some people only supposed to be our friend for a season. And everybody who we come in contact with, and one of my friends told me this, everybody who we come in contact with don't need to know us personally. But we have that personality that draws people in and think that we need to make friends or we're so quick to make friends. Some people don't need to go past hello. But we have brought people to our life, allowed them to, keep up space, and God never intended for them to go past hello. And now we got these friendships and these people that are draining us dry, milking us dry, and we have to take some accountability because yeah, we allow it. But yeah, we have to put those boundaries. We have to. When I tell you, learning the power of no, setting those boundaries, keeping myself first has really benefited me. If it does not put a smile on my face, I'm not doing it and I'm not going. And it has helped me a lot.
I read this Facebook post the other day that was like, sometimes you have to take accountability for the repetitive things that are happening in your life because you are the person allowing those repetitive things to happen. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if I talk to me 2 years ago, 2019, when I did my second attempt, I really should have looked at those situations and taken accountability for, I let these things happen. I really did.
Yeah.
I really did. Just like you said, some of those relationships should have been left at hello. Some of those situations should have been like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, but I just don't know trying to explain, like, when you don't love yourself,
Correct.
you let people do whatever to you.
Absolutely.
You let people treat you however they want to treat you. And to be real, people treat people like they're disposable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you just gotta know within yourself that you are not disposable, that you are the prize, that you are it. That's it.
Absolutely.
So
What do you tell someone who, let's say, they're struggling with depression, they're struggling with anxiety, they're struggling with self-worth? What advice would you give to them?
my biggest advice is trust the process and go to counseling. I really didn't love myself how I love myself now until I went to counseling. It's just an unbiased opinion on somebody who really don't know you, and they looking at you like, now why did you do that? And how did that make you feel when you did that? And
Right.
it's not even like they're giving you the answers because you know the answers. It's just like when that person is asking you that question, you like, oh girl, you didn't have to do me like that. Or, oh sir, put that back in
Right.
your pocket. Because
Right.
who told you to say that? But it's an unbiased, like, conversation. You're not talking to your homegirl that knows the thing that you went 10 years ago. You're talking to somebody that really knows nothing about you, that's not giving you biased advice or anything. They're just really like, okay, so why you did that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And trust the process, because it is a process. It's still a journey. I'm still on my journey.
Absolutely.
3 years later, I'm still fighting for myself within myself. So yeah, that's probably the best thing I can say.
It is a day-to-day process. It is definitely a day-to-day process. You definitely got to have patience with it. I know me being a control freak, that was the hardest thing for me to kind of submit to. That this is one thing I cannot control. Is just the process. I want to hurry it up. I want to heal now. I don't want this to take so long. But yeah, I definitely think that's a great piece of advice. Being patient and just giving into the process. What would you say? Girl, just had a brain fart. I swear, it's had a brain fart, girl. I can't remember what the hell I was going to ask you. What's one? What would you say is the favorite thing you love about yourself today?
Ooh, honey, I got a list. I love that I am caring. At one point, I used to journal, which I do. I still recommend journaling too. But in my journal, I had so much self-hate. I hate that I cared about people. I hate that.
Oh wow!
Girl, that is your best quality. That's what makes Mika Mika. Y'all know that I genuinely care.
Yeah.
Like, I love that about myself, because I feel like in the world that we live in now, people don't care about anything, and everything is uncensored. They don't care. I feel like I'm the one of a kind, honey. I care, honey. I couldn't
Amen.
wait for a can of paint, baby, but I care about you. You want
Right.
something to eat? I give you something to eat. Like,
Right.
that's just me. I could see you. We could sit and we can have a conversation, and I'll be like, well, I got something to help you if you want some help. Like,
Right. Right.
you know, I love that about myself. That's probably number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you forgiven yourself and given yourself grace?
Yes. I literally just had this conversation yesterday, so it's very funny that you use that word. I felt like if I didn't give myself grace, I couldn't be where I'm at today. And if I didn't give myself grace, I couldn't have taken myself to therapy. I had to know and understand that. Actually, my background, let's tell you what my background says. It says, give yourself some grace. You are still learning. We all are.
I love that.
And it's the truth. I had to learn that I didn't love myself. I had to learn that I didn't have self-worth. I had to learn that it was okay to live in those emotions. And I had to learn that it was okay to say no. But I also had to learn, like, it's not going to happen tomorrow. And you probably going to hate yourself a little bit. But give it some time and some grace, and you'll be like the most beautiful rose ever.
Amen. I love that. I love that. Mika, listen, I appreciate you taking time out to do this interview with me. Always been a very, very special young lady, so I hope you never forget that. I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best of luck in everything you are doing, young lady.
Thank you. And I really appreciate this because I really feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely.
Like awareness. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Amen. So you take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mika.
In dealing with suicide, there are common risk factors that exist. Some of these risk factors include bullying, relationship problems, poor social support, alcohol and substance abuse, death of a loved one, physical and mental abuse, mental health issues, and financial worries. Some of the common warning signs to look at are a person that is sleeping too little or too much, visiting or calling people to say goodbye, talking about being a burden to everyone, isolating oneself, extreme mood swings, social withdrawal, looking for a way to kill oneself, and abusing use of drugs or alcohol. If you or someone you know is suffering from suicide ideations, or you think they're at risk of harming themselves, you can contact the National Suicide Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. That is the National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Well, that's it for the zone today. We are officially shutting it down. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, remember this. You are in charge of your own happiness. Focus on the events and people that bring you joy. You deserve it.